If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ron Tank. He's an investor, author, and coach, and he coaches new and experienced investors on how to eliminate risk and maximize returns in the stock market. As a Sunday school teacher and expert investor, that's quite a combination. Wow, those kids are lucky to have you as their mentor. He's often called the Moses of Wallstreet. I can't wait to hear the origin story of that. And you stepping into that name is like so powerful. Ron offers an extremely unique combination of field-proven strategy, real-life tested biblical advice, and practical tips that successful investors need to win in today's financial markets. Ron's book, The Moses of Wallstreet, solves an old problem in a unique way by investing in the right way for the right reasons. What a concept. Money and financial trouble often rank first or second in the top 10 reasons for divorce. In addition, according to Gallup survey, 150 million Americans, or 58% of the adult population, own stocks. In order for American families to remain together and strong, getting their financial house in order is a must. Ron's on a mission to help families invest together and stay together. Welcome, Ron.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure being here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on my show. And I just love your energy. You're very calm and grounded. And I can tell you just speak from your heart and share whatever's coming to you. And you're just giving so much. You're giving so much to the world in your wisdom. So I want to talk about some of the concepts that people might have about investing and money. So let's talk about maybe retirement. So what are what you say is a sin, one of the deadly sins you must avoid?
Yeah, well, the big one, Chris, so I'll give you a real example of a fellow I talked to that was in his early 60s. And he had been through the big bear market of 2000 to 03. He hung through that one. He went through the bear market of 07 and 08 in the banking crisis that we had there. And about somewhere near the end of 08 to beginning of 2009, he couldn't take it anymore because he had watched half his money practically disappear on that second bear market.
Oh, wow. And just for others that are not investors, the bear market is just a brief definition, bear versus a bull.
Yeah, and he couldn't stand it, Chris, and I don't blame him. I mean, he was thinking about retirement in 5 years or so, and he said, "Boy, Ron, I couldn't take it. I just had to get out. The news was so terrible." So here's one of the chapters in the book, Chris, is news. The deadly sin you must avoid. News you lose, and he could not stand what he was hearing on TV. Plus, he had watched a lot of his money disappear, and he said, "I can't take it. I got to preserve what I have left, or I'll never retire." And so he let the news really scare him out at that point. And then he had no way to figure out how to get back in. He couldn't get himself to come back into the stock market. So he stayed out. And he told me at the time, and this was probably in 2012, right around there, and the markets had come back pretty good from the 09 bottom, and he still wasn't in. And he said, "Boy, Ron, now I'm going to have to work another 5 or 10 years. And so what I've learned is that, people, when you get up in the older ages and you're starting to think retirement, you have to have, it's even more important to have a system that you operate by that says, if the market's getting into trouble and I can see that coming, which you can, Chris, if there's a way to watch supply and demand in the charts and see what the big institutions are doing. And if you can spot it and you have retirement coming, kind of like what people might be thinking about right now, then at a certain point, you probably do want to exit out of a lot of the stock market and head into something that's safer and think about your retirement and not trying to get too greedy just because you want to hang in there because you're starting to do pretty well. So that was one of the things that I, talk to people, and I give them examples of past bear markets and how things sound terrible, but the market's always bottom when things sound terrible. We just did it again last year in October, then again in January. The market started picking up speed in April and the beginning of May. Now people are on to the fact that, hey, the markets are trending back up. We're in a bull market. And a lot of people probably got scared out and didn't come back. So you have to have a system that you can operate by. Really important, Chris, to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know, could it be, I know this is not financial advice. Obviously, you do what you need to do your own research for financial services. I don't know if you provide that. Do you provide investment strategies and advice and actually manage money, or?
Well, no, I manage my own, but I do provide, what I would call not advice. So I'm not a registered investment advisor. So that's a good thing for your audience to know.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm not a registered investment advisor. I'm not licensed anyway. I've never worked on Wall Street, never worked for a brokerage firm, none of that stuff. I'm just an average Main Street guy that took it upon himself to quit his computer programming job and go try to make a living in the stock market. So, but what I do is I try to share with people things that they can do and help them find what I consider to be leading stocks or some of the better stocks in the stock market, give them a system to funnel that down, kind of simplify things a little bit, because information overload is a big problem for people. Everybody has information at their fingertips now, but what's important and what's not, and you hear people with different opinions on what's important and what isn't. And people go, what do? I don't know what is important. And there's several things. It's kind of like what I was shared with you is building a building. So if you're going to, reach the top of the building, well, you better have a good foundation to start with. Then you better have a system that you go about adding floors to that building. And if you have a good way about doing that, you have a good chance of reaching the top of that building. So you kind of have to put pieces together. A lot of that is related to charts. So I think of charts as kind of like an X-ray to a doctor or a blueprint to a builder. So if you're going to build a building, you better have a blueprint. And people all the time kind of take a stab at the stock market and they think, well, it kind of feels like gambling. Well, it is if you don't have a system. So it can be because you're just operating on your hopes, and I always tell people, hey, hope is a good thing, but it shouldn't be your primary strategy. If it is, that's bad news. You have to be hopeful, but you have to have a good strategy, and you need a blueprint to assemble that building. And if you're looking at your retirement, that's kind of what you're doing over time, right? As you're starting out at ground floor, you want a good foundation. Over time, you want to add to that, so that by the time you reach retirement, there's something there to let you retire. And if you did well, a job well done, you end up there. And that's kind of how I see investing is if you're doing a good job, the money takes care of itself. It's kind of the evidence that you're on the right track and doing the right things. But you have to be a steward. Otherwise, you could turn it into gambling. So you have to learn to be a manager, of it and think of it that way. People say, well, how do I manage it when it feels like I'm gambling and I have no idea what to do? That's, again, back to the system. You'll hear that out of me constantly, Chris, because if you don't have one, it can be a terrible place to be because the news and the TV will work on you. You'll be watching your money go up and down, and that becomes emotional. And then you start to make decisions based on the news and your emotions instead of what you should be doing, which is about the facts that are presented to you in a chart that tells you what supply and demand is doing. And that's how you can tell when you're in a bull market. You can tell when it's changing and getting into trouble. You can do the same thing with individual stocks. So there really is a method to the Wall Street madness, really, if you want to look, think of it that way. And you mentioned the title, Krista. So
the Moses of Wall Street. Yeah. Did you? Yeah, I did want to just go back a little bit because I wanted to finish my thought. And say, for example, you've been investing and you get into that fear and you see your stocks going down. would it be advisable to, like you're saying, get knowledgeable, be conscious about your investing and maybe not jump, or temporarily move them out into cash and then reinvest when you feel confident again?
Well, that's what I do, Krista.
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So if I'm confident about the direction of the market, then at least, so here's a little fact for your audience, Chris, that this came from William O'Neill, which if anybody's a follower of him, he just passed away here on Memorial Day weekend. Big hero of mine, big mentor of mine. I met him a few times.
He's an investor.
Yes, he was. He was quite successful. He lived in California. But one of the things that, when it comes to thinking about what you're doing, you have to think about the fact that you don't want to just be guessing at things. So if a person says, like I was telling you, that system thing, so you say, well, if I can tell when the markets are good, William O'Neill said that 3 out of 4 stocks will go the direction of the general market. So if you can analyze the markets well enough to know what the direction is, forget about bull and bear, just which way is the trend right now and how healthy is it? Is it operating in a healthy way? 3 out of 4 stocks will travel that direction. So you've increased your odds. You put them up to 75%.
That's pretty high stats.
That's a big
That's
stat.
good advice. It's not looking, it's looking at the whole market, like S&P 500 or whatever you're looking at, correct?
Exactly. So it's telling you that, hey, the demand for stocks is here. And if the demand is pushing prices higher and 3 out of 4 will go that direction, you've solved a big problem just by knowing what the market's doing. Now, you don't have to know what it's going to do a week from now or a month from now. You just need to know what kind of condition is it right now. And that is very helpful. And if you say, well, the condition's not good, then why would I be there? I don't know. Why would you? It's kind of like, it's kind of like being out on the ocean and you're fishing and a hurricane comes. Why be there?
Yeah.
If you could look at your radar and go, wait a minute, right now it's pretty good fishing, but it sure looks like the way the wind and the water's acting and my radar is telling me here something's up. Maybe I'd be smart to get out of here. Forget the fishing. It's hard to do when you're catching fish, Chris. To say, hey, I'm just going to pack it up and head out of here that's where people get trapped, is they say, well, yeah, but I might be wrong. It might keep working. So they stay. And then pretty soon things get bad. And then they're afraid to move because they go, wow, the winds are so bad and the waves are so high. I don't even think I can get back to shore. I think I'll just stay here and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Bad move,
Yeah.
So it's, yep, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's one of those things where the market's a little bit counterintuitive in the sense that
yes,
when everything's bad and the news is
you have
bad,
to fight the mainstream and the media.
You do, and you need to know when the right time is to do that. And that's the key. And the charts always give away those keys if you learn how to read them. And people say, well, chart stuff, that charting is voodoo. People like to say it. I'm thinking, well, yeah, but would you tell your doctor an X-ray is voodoo? Or would you tell the builder that his blueprint is voodoo? I wouldn't do that. I would learn how to read those things because they hold the details and the key to your success, really.
Good advice. That's very interesting. I have taken some courses on it, but my husband's father manages our investments and he does very well. And so does my husband. So over time, and I've invested my kids. At first I had a college fund for them and it was doing awful. Oh my God. I mean, I was like, what? How can I even I don't even know. It was like 1% or just like nothing, 0.05 or 1%. I mean, sure, there's some college funds that do well, but I just didn't even know. I think it was like mutual funds or something. And so then we just had him invest it. And already after, I would say about 2 months, they doubled their money. My kids, this is their money for college. So I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing instead, and so I don't know. I found that interesting because a lot of mainstream people might put their money in like a college fund that's specific for that, but there might be better ways to invest individually. Like you're recommending, like that your strategy is, where you can have, you can be empowered. And so, yeah. But I was wondering, you have a lot of, you bring your faith and biblical principles to your business. How does that all fit into who you are?
Well, boy, I tell you that, to me, Chris, the Bible is like the best financial book I've ever read. And you wouldn't think of it that way. And I don't want to, portray the Bible as a financial
Really?
book.
Oh my God. I've never heard anyone say that. I love that. I'm so curious. I am so curious now.
Well, I'll tell you a story, Chris, on this, so just to show, because this is where the powerful thing came into me, and it was in 2006. But I was doing a Bible study in Acts chapter 10, and it's about Peter.
Okay.
And Peter
was this with kids? Were you working with kids?
No, I was sitting at home.
Adults.
I was just doing a personal Bible study at the time. In the Sunday school class I teach, by the way, it's actually an adult class, Chris. So, and I've been doing it for probably close to 14 years now.
Oh, it's an adult. Oh my gosh. I just think Sunday school.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. And Chris, I never thought I would be a Sunday school teacher. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, I'd have said it'll be the last thing I ever do. Literally, I would have said it'd be the last thing I ever do. But anyway, I was watching this show on lion behavior.
God has another plan for you, right? Sunday school teacher.
He did. And sometimes when you tell God you're not going to do something, he has a funny way of drafting you. So I was watching this show on lion behavior. I'm doing this Bible study in Acts chapter 10. And it was really an aha moment, Chris. It was one of those that I just got goosebumps thinking about it. It was watching these lions and these two guys approaching a wild lion. She was in a cage. It's a female lion. He's describing her behavior as they approach her. And all they have is this little stick with a T on the top of it that they're pushing on the ground in front of them. And they're walking towards her, and she's crouched down in the corner of this cage. And as they get closer, she starts to flip her tail. But she's doing it intentionally and kind of fast. And he picked up on that, and he backs away. He tells the other guy, "We got to back away. So they back away real quick. And the guy says, good girl. And he's like, "What are you saying that to her for?" And he said, "Because she warned us. She gave us a warning. We're going to heed the warning." They back away. She stays put. So what I saw was Peter doing this same thing. God showed him a vision, but he didn't understand it. And so God showed him again. And this lion, they said, "Hey, let's approach the lion again." And as they do walk towards her, the guy said, "She'll probably let us get a little bit closer, but we need to watch for the warning." They get a little bit closer than they did the first time. And this time she lunges at him. Takes her feet and kind of jumps and stops, shows her teeth and growls like, "I'm going to get you." And the guy's like, "Whoop, good girl. And they start backing away instantly. And she stays put. And the guy says, "See, there's the warning. You have to heed that warning, and you have to back away. You can't just stand there. You got to back away to tell her that all is good and you respect her." Well, the markets will do that to people too. And I'll tell you in a second. But he told the guy, he said, "Hey, if we go at her a third time, we're her T-bone steak dinner. So she'll give you 2 warnings, but if you go a third time, she's going to take action and you're in trouble." Well, the markets do the same thing, Chris. And I was reading about Peter, and Peter didn't get the vision the second time God told it to him. And then God told it to him a third time, and he did understand it. And my brain said, Tank, in 2005, the markets did something similar. They came down once, they rallied for a while. They came down to a lower low the second time, rallied for a while, came down to a third low, which was lower than the second low. And that's where everybody takes action, Chris. So I said, well, there's Peter. He got it on the third time. The lion doesn't give you the third time. So once you start towards the third time, she gets you. The market will come at you 3 times. And there's a chapter in the book where I describe this in detail.
And that's why you're saying you like 3, because that's my email, 333.
Yeah, 333. I love that. In your email, I was like, I can't believe she has 333 in her email.
Yeah, it's very powerful. You're right in many ways, but go ahead. You can share.
Well, and people think you've heard the term third time's a charm, right? Everybody's heard that. But the Bible brings it to life, Chris. So I thought Peter was just one example of this third occurrence. But it turns out Jesus went through a third occurrence event when he prayed in the garden at Gethsemane, and he asked God if there was a different way for his future to come about. And he learned after the third time that God's will was going to be done. He wasn't going to change that. So he accepted that after that third ask. Satan even tempted Jesus 3 times before he quit on him. He realized, hey, this ain't working. And he gave up after the third try. Peter denied Christ 3 times. There's just so many examples.
So many evidence.
Argued with the audience or the crowd before he finally turned Jesus over to him. And it was 3 times. It wasn't 2, wasn't 4. So what it is what I call the decision maker DNA, Chris, and it's how your brain is wired. So when you experience something once, it probably won't bother you too much. But if you experience it twice, you start to see that, hey, this happened to me before. Now it's happening again. Is this a pattern? Because if it is, I might want to do something about it. And when the third time comes around, you identify it as the pattern and you do take action. So what happens in the markets, that third occurrence takes all the sellers out of the market. And now the only direction that makes sense is up, because everybody that was going to take action did. They're now gone. Now the market's free to advance and rally again. So it's and I've went back over 100 years, found tons of evidence in the indexes themselves, like the S&P and the NASDAQ and all that, but it happens in individual stocks. So if you can find this pattern, and your eye can see it really easy. That's the good thing, Chris, is it's not hard to see. I could show you 5 different ones and then show you one, and you'd say, well, Ron, right there it is. And pretty soon you'll start to see them halfway through this pattern, and you can start to watch them and see if that pattern does develop.
So you can start to predict. You can start to see what happens a little bit before that.
Yeah, so you're kind of like, it's like watching somebody draw a staircase. Take a step down, then another step down. You see 2 steps, you can kind of anticipate there might be a third. And if it's really easy to see, they tend to work really well, Chris. So that's the good news, is you don't have to be a genius to try to interpret this chart pattern. It's the easier it is to see, generally, the better it is. And then I combine that with sales, earnings, return on equity being at a certain level. And that puts it into the bulletproof category.
So you really look at the company.
You do. You look for the company and you say, well, here's one that has good sales, earnings, return on equity. So those are the 3 things I look at that I believe are the most important. So I can filter everything else out. Simplifies my life, my job. I say, I'm going to focus on those 3 things. And then when I find those 3 things present, then I focus on the chart and watch for these 3 declines. And when you get it and the numbers are still good and the market is in agreement that it's still good, then you've got the potential for a big winner. So
that's great.
So the title, Chrissy, you mentioned Moses of Wallstreet.
Yeah. How did you come up? Did someone name you that, or did you come up with that?
Well, it hit me, and I'll tell you how it came about. This was after I wrote the book, or I was in the process actually of writing the book at the time. And I was meeting with this small group, and the guy was leading the group, and he said, everybody in here has a title, meaning there's something about you that you're doing and trying to do to help others. What is the title that would be obvious to everybody what you do? And I didn't have one at all, because I was sitting there thinking, boy, what kind of, it stumped me for a minute. But then this flash of, because it was, at the time, it was pretty recent, the Wolf of Wall Street movie, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. That movie is crazy.
So that movie came out. I hadn't seen it. People would ask me about it. Well, I'm sitting there thinking, I couldn't get myself to watch it because I just had a feeling because of the language and a lot of the stuff was in it. I thought, I probably just can't. I don't know that I could even watch it and sit through it. So I didn't watch it. And people would ask, and I thought, well, maybe I should watch that movie. And I'm sitting there, and this was pretty recent. I'm sitting in that meeting, and I thought, boy, the Wolf of Wall Street, man, that was kind of bad. I'm kind of the opposite. That thought hit me, Chris.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of the opposite. Well, what's the opposite of the Wolf of Wall Street? And
you don't want to be the sheep, right?
You don't want to be the sheep. So right, you don't want to be
because
right.
It's
exactly.
the opposite of sheep.
Yeah, and I don't want to be a dove or a sheep or whatever. So I'm thinking,
sound too wimpy. No, I'm just kidding.
Too wimpy, right? So I'm thinking, and it just popped in, Chris, just like this. The Moses of Wall Street. I thought, Moses, that says Bible, and you can't get that wrong. And I thought, so the table, I mentioned it to the people sitting there. So it came to my.
Did they go like this? No.
Yeah, they said, okay, Ron, what's your title? Well, I wrote it down and I underlined it. And I thought, boy, that's a big title. I don't know if that's me or, if that's a good idea or not. But they asked me and I said, well, I got to tell you, I wrote down the Moses of Wall Street, and they all went, ooh, oh, boy, that is good. They were all like, and I said, so what does that say to you when I say that title? And they said, well, it says it has something to do with the Bible. You have something to do with the Bible, and you have something to do with investing. And I said,
yeah, bingo.
That's exactly right. And Chris, when I started writing the book and was working on it, one of the things I wrestled with was, Tank, you're trying to take this system, this one pattern, and why it occurs in the market and explain it to people. And you're trying to say that the Bible says that's why it occurs and that it repeats over time. That's a big claim. I mean, you better have a lot of proof and evidence. And I spent 3 years researching Chris before I even tried it myself, before I even wanted to go in and try to see if it would work if I tried it. And I found lots of examples to study and all this stuff. So I finally got myself to do it. And I realized at the time, I thought, well, if you're going to write a book called The Moses of Wall Street, you better get this evidence. But I really didn't want to do it. Well, as I started researching Moses now, because I'm going to wear this title, so I knew a little bit about him. Everybody thinks of the Red Sea and, different things, leading people out of Egypt. And I thought, well, I am kind of going to try to lead a little group of people to learn this and through this thing called Wall Street. Maybe it's not the Red Sea, but it's Wall Street. And I really didn't feel qualified, Chris. It kind of like, and God drafted me to Sunday school at the same time, and I didn't feel qualified. And he said, yeah, but if I'm asking you to do it, it isn't about your qualifications. It's about your willingness. And I was like, oh, ouch, ouch, ouch.
Okay. Yeah.
If I'm willing to do it, then I'm thinking, and he had to kind of push me a little, Chris, to wear that title. And that's been my challenge. I was afraid people was going to think, oh, he's some con artist trying to promote the Bible as a gimmick, as a marketing ploy or something like that. That bothers me. Or
that you're in your ego, that you're full of yourself, to be the claim that you're Moses. People might think that, or you might think they would think that, but
right. And I say, well, I'm not claiming to be a modern day Moses, but I sure can identify with him. And I can, because he did resist, that leadership that God wanted him to bring. He made excuses. I'm not a speaker. God said, okay, I'll give you Aaron then. Aaron will talk for you. He just kept making up excuses. He did. I mean, he really tried to get out of that role. And so I definitely related to him. I was like, wow, that's even better, because now I actually kind of understand how Moses felt almost. I can identify with his fear of trying to lead people away. It's a big responsibility, so you got to take it serious.
That's amazing. Did you feel, okay, now I'm going to get into my spiritual connection. Did you feel like you connected with Moses, like the energy of him at all when writing this book?
I did, Chris, I did. And because the whole thought.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful to connect with that energy, right?
It was, and because it was, what it did, Chris, is it as I was doing it, I started to think more of what was Moses, what was he really doing? He was allowing God to work through him. So the power of, really, it wasn't about Moses. And so I started seeing it differently, Chris, because I started seeing Moses as really just a tool.
Yeah, a vessel.
A vessel. God was using him. Moses finally conceded and said, okay, I'll do it. And sometimes things, got pretty tough. People could be a little bit angry. They got pretty mad at him at times. Moses got mad at them. And I thought, boy, what's the key then to Moses? It's his connection to God. See, he has to keep it or he'll fail. He has to stay right in that groove. Let the spiritual part of who Moses was at the time carry him through it.
That's amazing.
If he were to abandon that, I don't think Moses would have made it.
Yeah, because he really had to stand strong in his faith and truth, regardless of who was like throwing things at him, all the negativity and trying to take him down. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Pharaoh wanted to kill him. Right. I mean, he's got to worry about the Pharaoh and his army coming after him. He's got to worry about his people complaining. So he really had to learn to rely on God and not worry about what other people were doing or thinking. He had to believe that God was going to take care of him, even when it didn't look very pleasant.
Yeah.
He had to do that.
So that's amazing. I love that. And how has your book been received?
Well, good. But you know what I found, Chris, on Amazon, it's like you put a book on Amazon, it's almost like, so what? Because there's so many books.
I know. There must be like billions.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, huge number. So if you're not doing something to make people aware that it's there,
yeah,
you're probably, and I have a friend writing a book right now. His is more of a story fiction type book, but I told him, I said, boy, you're writing the book you think is the hard part. The hard part is actually showing it to people, and making them aware of it being out there. So,
yeah.
But I've had some good feedback, Chris. So the people that do read it, I get great feedback most of the time. I do get some that I feel like would have been in Moses's crowd, saying, "Hey, Tank, that's too big. That's blasphemy. You can't make returns that big." And I'm thinking, well, I can give you.
You proof. Did, yeah, because you researched it for 3 years, to make sure. That's amazing. Yeah. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah. And most of the stuff that I do, Chris, I have, with IBD, the paper article, that was them, I had to give them proof of that. So it wasn't, they weren't just taking my word for it. And a lot of the things
Investor Business Daily, is that what you're talking about? The acronym for our audience?
Yeah.
Is what?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Investors Business Daily is how it's referred to now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's IBD. William O'Neill's paper.
Everybody get that acronym, IBD.
IBD.
When you become an investor.
That's William O'Neill's paper. So the fellow I told you just passed away at 90 years old. He started that paper, I believe it was in 1980. I want to say it was 1984 when he started that. It's changed name a little bit. I think what used to be Investors Daily, and it went to Investors Business Daily, kind of thing. So good paper though. Good information.
So when did your book come out?
I self-published it in 2015, Chris, myself.
Oh, okay. 2015. Okay.
And that book did not have a picture of me on it. It had a picture of an old guy that looked like Moses. And
but this picture of you now on it kind of looks like how Moses would look like today to me.
Is well,
like if
thanks.
he was
I think,
here,
Chris, I think, thanks. Are you telling me I look really old, Chris? I mean,
oh, come on. Receive. It's a compliment.
I'll take it that way. But
the color, the color of your beard and your hair, and also your heart. Like I was saying in the beginning, you can see the pureness of you through your picture.
Well, I thanks for that, Chris. I appreciate
welcome.
That. So, and it really is the picture of me on there though that's a story. So there's another story. So the first book, everybody, the people that were helping me and people around me said, your picture ought to be on that book. I'm like, I didn't
believe it. Okay.
I didn't want that. The second go round, which the one you're seeing with my picture was published in 2020, April, I think, of 2020. Trilogy.
And when in 2020 did you say?
I think it was April of 2020. So it was.
Oh my gosh, that was a month after COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we redid it. When I say redid it, I added a chapter. I put some newer charts in there since I could update charts a little bit. I put some newer ones in. And everybody was still, Tank, your picture ought to be on. And I finally came to the realization, Tank, are you brave enough to own this? You really are able to own this title.
Yes.
Are you hiding? If you're not, then show them who Moses is.
Boom. Are you hiding? Absolutely. I get called on that all the time by Spirit, by the way.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're hiding. You're not being real. Yeah, totally. So it's a constant. It's a constant, because Spirit, God, whoever you believe in, they want you to shine your light because it allows others to feel like they can shine their lights. And then it's just a ripple effect.
Yeah. And if what you represent, if you're not afraid of it, why wouldn't you let your light shine?
That's right.
Bit?
That's right. Yeah.
If you truly believe it down in your heart, you let it shine,
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not, you're not worried about people.
You don't try to play small so that others can shine. No,
just let it go. Yeah. If you have
Mhm.
the light, let it go. Yeah.
So then you had this realization. So then you said, okay, do you do a photo shoot or something?
Yeah. I had just a local place here not too far from me that did actually it was a guy that was associated with our high school. And that's how I come to find him actually. And he took the picture in a little studio in his house and it worked out. So yeah. It's a good
And
thing.
did you find that you were able to market it more, be proud of it? Did you kind of feel more in alignment since the first book release?
Yeah, because now, Chris, with that picture, so I got one sitting on the shelf, I can see it. And I look at that face and I think, well, Tank, you own it now. There's no doubt. And it actually makes me feel better, Chris, than the other book titles.
Oh,
And not because necessarily my picture's on the book, but because I've claimed it. I own it. People might
yes.
say, well, Tank, are you claiming you think you're some modern day Moses, do you? Well, no, I don't. But I really do kind of relate to him. I can understand how he felt, I think. My mission is to lead people, to help people. It is to help get them to a promised land of sorts, and to help them financially. So I take that role serious. I'm not afraid if somebody says, hey, Tank, then show me the proof. Well, I can. Sit down here and let me show it to you, and I'll be glad to do it. And if you disagree and you think I'm making something up or trying to contrive that the Bible has more to say about who you are than anything else, well, let me show you these things and see if you feel the same way. And that's really what the book I try to do in the book, Chris, is to give enough proof that people will say, well, now I kind of see why he thinks that is actually a biblical thing, and that this decision DNA is real, and third time's a charm is more real than I ever thought. So.
And I hope you don't get offended by saying this, but talking to you, doing this interview, I have a different level of respect for the Bible. I'm not sure why. But it's really interesting. I was just like, wow, this is really insightful that there's like keys to our own abundance and living a better life that I never even thought about or realized. I mean, I'm a spiritual teacher. I believe in some of the things that the Bible says, but I'm not like studying it on a daily basis. So I'm just coming from maybe a different perspective, and then, hearing you, and it just feels so true because I can feel when I feel the truth, I feel it in my heart. And so anyways, I'm just like, whoa, this is fascinating. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and Chris, no, I'm not offended at all. And I thank you for saying that, because it is, when I meet people, my spirit, there's a friend of mine who's about 20, 25 years older than me. I've known him for about that long, since 1995, whatever that comes out to.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an older fellow, would have been about the age of my dad, who my dad died. And that's what that coyote story is about. God sends his love. That's that one. But anyway, Mike, I relate to him. And when we met in 1995, my spirit met his, and I had this confidence in who he was, and he felt the same way about me. And over the years, that's the thing. He's like, when I meet people, I feel their spirit. I know whether they're like-minded like me, and how their heart is. And there's that connection, and it's like a spiritual connection, and it happens on its own. You don't even have to think about it or try to make it happen. It just kind of does, but when it does, it's powerful. And it's telling you something about that person, and it is identifying a connection that's strong. It's almost like a binding type of a thing that the spirit does, and those two people really connect. And so I totally understand what you're saying, and the Bible tends to have that effect, I think, on people. So the more you're into it, so the more you're into it,
you get like, oh wow, there's this, and I'm sure there's a whole nother level. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it really, it becomes stronger over time if you engage with it. It really does. And
Yeah.
the spiritual part of you will see that
Hmm.
as time goes. So I love the fact I get to share the Bible and help financially, Chris. So that's what
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
what I
that's
love about it.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. We'll talk a little bit about some of the ways people can work with you. So you can buy his book, and I'll put how to buy his book in the show notes. And do you do other programs as well?
I have a coaching program. So there's training that if you went to rontank.com, there's a little training video that I put together. So
Yeah, you can't get easier than that. Your name sounds like a superhero, by the way, Ron Tank. Everyone told you that?
I've never heard
Tank
that.
Girl is kind of a superhero, but yeah, Ron Tank. It sounds like a superhero.
There's a video there that walks people through, and I kind of bring the book to life there, and I offer training and then an inner circle for people that want to have time with me once a month, where I share things. I don't give advice. I don't tell people what to buy or anything in those, but I share things that I'm finding, and I try to take things that they've learned in the program and help them see them happening real time. And we look at the markets real time to gauge whether they're healthy or not. What are we in? Have we made a turn, a bottom? So we went through all that stuff. And I talk about individual stocks I'm looking at and why, and things that might be T3s, things to keep an eye on from 1 month to the next. So they have a little bit of a target list. So I kind of help them see it real time, Chris. And I think that's what I wanted as somebody young starting. William O'Neill didn't offer that back in the day when I was young.
Because that's high maintenance.
It is.
He's like, I want to have a life. No, I'm just teasing you.
It is. It's a little more maintenance. Exactly.
Yeah.
It is more work, Chris.
But it's dedication.
It is.
Shows your commitment.
Yeah.
So I was curious. I wanted to ask another question. What are 3 money myths that can sabotage your efforts at achieving financial independence?
Well, so that's a good thing. Some things come back as a kid to me, but so a lot of people get this, and so I have a villain, Chris. So it's called the financial self versus the spiritual self.
Okay.
So here's what happens to people, and that's what I coach people through in my program. And a lot of the reason they come to me, I think, for this reason. And people, I just had a guy that interviewed me, Chris, and he said this, and I said, and I had to tell him that it wasn't right. So,
my gosh. I'm sure. How did he respond to that? He might not like that.
I think he was shocked. He didn't say, well, Ron, that's not right. He just kind of let me be Moses and let that become the law.
Great.
But I said, here's one of the myths. People say the money is the root of all evil. I said that's not, no. So money, as the Bible describes it, says the love of money.
The love, if you get obsessed with it, if you think of it as everything, right?
Yeah, the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil.
Yeah, so not the root. Not the root.
It's not the only thing. And I told him, I said, well, what's dangerous about that is, so you got to think about what the Bible tells us. It's the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil. You say, who could that apply to? You could be a poor person, fall in love with the idea of having lots of money. And later, right after the Bible tells us that, it says that the people pierced themselves with many griefs. So this attachment and falling in love with money actually causes people grief. And especially if they can't.
Because it's never enough.
It's
if
never
you get
enough.
Into that. Yeah. Some people have that relationship with money. Yeah.
Yep. Howard Hughes, Chris, they asked him one time, they said, Mr. Hughes, how much money would be enough for you? You know what his answer was?
I bet.
Just a little bit more. See, and that's
that is honest.
That's honest. And probably most people would say the same thing. It'd be like, how much money would you stop and say, I don't want any more. I don't need any more, So it's always that a little bit more. So falling in love with it, that's one of them that comes to mind right off the top of my head. Chris, another one though, when I was a kid, and it might relate to this one, is that somehow having money was evil.
And that's just a myth. But that's nowhere in the Bible, right?
It's not. It's the love of money that gets people into trouble. And if you look at the Bible, God actually
and then they make it mean something.
Yeah. So sometimes people will think, I must be able to have too much money. But that's not true. The Bible doesn't talk about too much money. Only in the sense there's an example of a guy that builds a barn because he needs more space. So he keeps building bigger and bigger buildings to keep all of his material possessions. It's not necessarily money exactly, but his material possessions. And God says, well, yeah, but your life could be demanded from you this very night. And then what would you have if that were true? In other words, you can't take it with you. So there's no U-Haul behind your hearse, or at least I haven't seen one. I don't know about yours, but I have not seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. So you have to watch the possessions. And the thing is to think, do I have too much money? And people will tend to feel guilty at some point about having money. They think, I have too much money. Why do you think you have too much money? The Bible doesn't describe it that way. It actually tells us to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah. So then what do you do with that money? How are you tithing? How are you giving to your community and sharing your knowledge and your money?
Right. And if you find yourself able to give some money away, Chris, it also proves that your heart hasn't become greedy. That's the other problem with money, is money can have the effect once somebody has a little bit. So if you were poor and you start to have some money, you can start to make money or fall in love with money and make that your goal. If you do, you might become greedy, and you'd say, well, how would I know if I was being greedy or not, Ron? How would I know? And I would say, if you have been able to build this financial building over time and you're doing better and better, but yet you find yourself unwilling to share and give some of your money to other people, other causes, I would say you're probably greedy.
Yeah.
So you're not willing to share or to help others. And I think that would be a colossal mistake. If you teach yourself to not want to help other people or give money away to other good causes, then you're promoting to yourself to be greedy. So you're actually encouraging yourself to be greedy by not being willing to share. So I think there's a lot of things though with money that Chris, that are missed. One of them that's probably true is money doesn't grow on trees. My dad told me that one. So that's one I would say that's probably true. But here's another one that's a myth, Chris, and I know I'm going along, is you have to have money to make money. I don't believe that. I didn't have much, and I did pretty well with a little bit. Yeah. So when somebody says you have to have money to make money, people think, well, you have to have a lot of money to make money. But that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can have just a little bit of money, and you might even not have any money, but you might be able to get money from somebody else. So you don't have to have, it doesn't take money to make money, or at least not your own money. You might find other ways to go about it. So don't get yourself cornered, thinking, well, I don't have any money, so therefore I can't make any.
Yeah. Sometimes that's some people's entire philosophy and have become billionaires from that. Grant Cardone is one where he only invests other people's money. So he pulls it all together and he's a billionaire. So he still doesn't use his money for that. Maybe other projects or something, but it's interesting, and teaches other people that mindset. And he was even on a show, a secret billionaire or something, and they put him on in a town with no money, and he was still able to make money, and to prove just what you're saying.
Yeah It's really your resourcefulness and your willingness to go make the effort. It takes effort. Money by itself doesn't do you any good anyway if you don't use it. If you got to make effort, even if you have it, you have to make effort to do anything. So
I feel like it has this energy of its own that it likes to be. So this is how I think of money, that likes to be in flow. It likes to be either investing or giving. It doesn't like to be stagnant. I feel it. You have to keep in that flow. Otherwise it can, I don't know. I think it can cause problems.
Yeah. When you just described it perfect, Chris, because the way I see money, it's just a tool. So when you look at it that way, you think, well, if a tool sits on somebody's shelf in their garage, what good is it? It
Yeah.
isn't. So if you
It wants
stack
to
a
be
bunch of money in
useful.
your,
That's right.
it needs to be useful. And you say, well, could I use it to do work and create more of that? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give that tool to somebody else to use that might put it to good? Yes. But if the tool's in use, it's probably creating results. It's accomplishing something. But to stash it on the shelf and leave it sit, it's totally useless.
Yeah.
So it's doing no good for anybody sitting there.
Yeah. Good point. I love that. I love those myths and debunking them. So tell me what you're working on right now. What's next? Are you working on a new book?
I am. And boy, I tell you, I'd love this, Krista. This was a special deal. My dad died when I was 30 in a motorcycle accident, so it was a sudden death. But within about a month, me and a buddy went out in the woods turkey hunting, and you would think it was just a coincidence. A lot of people say, "Oh, just a coincidence, Tank." Nah, I don't buy that. We stumbled into this little coyote pup outside of a den. It was crawling. It was probably 3.5 weeks old to my best abilities of aging her. Tops probably 4 weeks old.
Yeah.
And
And
I ended
Ron
up
sent me a picture. It's so adorable.
Yeah, boy, she was. Oh boy, I tell you, Chris, and it was so hard, but God taught me a lesson, Chris. It was through raising this coyote, which I took her home. She brought joy back to my heart, which I didn't think was possible at that time. I really didn't. I mean, it was just a horrendous thing. And you'd have to have the backstory to me and my dad to appreciate the relationship that
How
we
close
had.
you were.
It was hard fought though, Chris. My dad divorced my mom when I was 10. I was mad at him for a long time.
So you worked hard to resolve that relationship.
And it got to the point where I couldn't believe it could ever be that good.
That's amazing.
Then he's just gone, just in the blink of an eye.
But you have no regrets. I mean, think about how you worked hard and you had that love when he died, and that is amazing.
Yeah. And I can't imagine, Chris, if people were afraid, I'm thinking, what would the planet be like if love was not present? The Bible defines God as love. That's how we get it. It's where it comes from. I think we don't think we have the ability to do it without him. But if you didn't have love, what a horrible place it would be, wouldn't it? Wouldn't this be a terrible planet?
Don't even say it. Let's not even imagine.
It would be horrendous, wouldn't it? And I'm thinking, So your choice is either you don't love, so you don't have to experience the grief when somebody dies, or you do love and you get to experience that grief. It's one or the other. And I would much rather have the love and experience the grief at some point than not have it at all.
That is the purpose of life. I love how you said that. That is amazing. Risk it all for love.
This little coyote, Chrissy, she was a godsend. The story is incredible. If you read it, you'll think I'm making up things. You'll think I'm trying to be Steven Spielberg or something,
No, we'll have you back on the show when the book is ready. Okay.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about that. It would be fun.
That would be great. So one last question. What is Zen success to you?
Zen success to me. Boy, I tell you, for me, Chris, it's following the lead even when I don't understand where I'm going. It's following the lead even when I don't understand where I'm going. I'm able to continue to take those footsteps when I don't know where my foot's going to land for certain. Like being in a dark room trying to find your way, and it's tough. But to me, if you can get there, then you have nothing to worry about. And that's a good way to live. Stay worry free. So if you can get there, you're in a really good place.
Amazing. Good for your health.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure connecting with you, learning about your book, The Moses of Wallstreet, and your up and coming book about the baby coyote. We can't wait to hear about that. So I'll put your website and how to order your book in the show notes. Thanks for being on my show today, Ron.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it, Chris. It was a pleasure getting to spend a little bit of time with you, a little bit of good time, quality time. Yeah. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey and join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.
Feeling under the weather? You can teledoc that. Actually, for almost everything health-related, checkups, check-ins, and everything in between, you can teledoc that. Visit teledochealth.com to get started. TELADOC health.com.